Hello, welcome to another episode of Decentralized, brought to you by GlobalStake, your institutional, truly decentralized, self-owned and managed SOC 2 Type 2 compliant bare metal staking service provider. We're thrilled to have Deborah Simpier today, the co-founder and CEO of Althea and Hawk Networks. Althea L1 is a groundbreaking blockchain protocol focused on powering infrastructure and connectivity through a uniquely designed hardware-agnostic crypto wallet. This protocol facilitates efficient automatic micropayments across various devices, enhancing liquidity and utility in real-world networks. Hawk Networks further extends this innovation, applying blockchain technology to solve real connectivity issues. Join us as we delve into how Deborah and her team are reshaping the internet through decentralized, community-driven solutions. Deborah, welcome to the episode. Really happy to have you here with us today. Would love to just start off with your backstory. How did you get involved with this whole wonderful wide world of Web3?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so excited to be here. And I am actually a bit of an OG, I would say, in the Web3 space. As a hobbyist, I mined proof of work back when the milk crate and GPU days, and cut my teeth on the on BTCE and Mt. Gox. And even before that, I think I was greatly inspired by a lot of the work in distributed computing. There was folding at home was one of my early inspirations, where scientists sort of went together and contributed home resources in order to build the compute power for folding proteins, which is very fascinating. Ham radio operator, and did managed services providing in the wireless space for 10 years prior to launching Althea kind of late 2017. And then we've been building Althea and supporting products like the Gravity Bridge now, of course, for 6 or 7 years. But it really was a culmination of the how we can utilize the distributed tools and resources in the blockchain space with the friction and brittleness that we were encountering on the telecom and primarily wireless space at the time.
Well, you certainly are an OG. Beyond those pieces, which I didn't know, you also were instrumental in launching some other pretty popular, well-known blockchains yourself. And then it seems as if Althea has sort of evolved over time. So you said it launched in 2017. Now it's kind of become an L1. So maybe give us a little bit more of that backstory in terms of some of these other chains that you had a hand in launching, and sort of that evolution of Althea and where it is now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting evolution. And we started, like you said, back in 2017, when really we were on Ethereum. And at that time, the idea of payment channels, providing essentially Althea's machine-to-machine payments. And so devices we have a dynamic routing protocol, and then they meter and pay each other in these microtransactions. And so the thought was, Ethereum payment channels would be sort of the way to go. So we started back in that where, we encountered a lot of the problems that really kind of led us to where we're at now. But things like the inefficiency of opening payment channels, reorganization, gas, speculative, kind of gas congestion, over those years, various like tokens would launch and congest the network, and, market activity. And so we then evolved to actually just settling the payments directly on what is now the Gnosis chain using XDAI. So another kind of key pillar of Althea is removing microtransactions of stablecoins. Like I said, we've been using the XDAI network. As we begun to really grow, at this one point in time, we were over 70% of all of the volume on Gnosis chain. But that led us to really think about, how do we scale this, and building a purpose-built block space in particular, like for the microtransaction module, that wouldn't be affected by market movements or other, general purpose chains or DeFi kind of coming online. And so we started to think about moving to Tendermint and to the Cosmos platform. So of course, as we're evolving that ecosystem, as that ecosystem begins to evolve in 2019, 2020, there was a lot that needed to be built. So we ended up working on the Gravity Bridge and the bridging between Ethereum and Cosmos, which also led us to intersect with Sommelier and with Canto, and then to build some of the Rust-based Cosmos libraries as well. The Deep Space, our team was very involved in building those kind of fundamentals, which is interesting because we ended up sort of intersecting with a very old industry, telecom, that needed to have that integration and having to solve for working with a lot of old technology, and then also simultaneously having to solve for working with new technology sets and building, from that is really, I think, led to, our team being very well-rounded and actually solving real problems. But the key to that, as a bit of a segue, in my opinion, is the user feedback, the feedback loop that we really have focused on. Althea, launched in 2017 and starting to experiment with blockchain technology in 2018, we started getting real users on the platform paying for their internet and their broadband in 2018. So what was so key and fundamental to Althea's success here is that very tight feedback loop. And we've evolved this, and those changes that have been made are not arbitrary. They were made because of real user feedback, and over the years we've now abstracted away all of the blockchain kind of components under the hood, and users just log on, they go to my.althea.net and they pay just with their debit card, and all of the sort of blockchain components are under the hood.
That's really interesting. And, I know that just having been somewhat familiar with what you guys are building out, the sort of telecom in general is getting really into this industry, right? We already see Deutsche Telekom, for instance, running nodes on multiple networks. It seems as if other telecom players are, realize this is going to be sort of the base layer of the new internet and the infrastructure that it's going to provide. But one of the things that's really exciting too about what Althea is building is just sort of the TAM, if you will. The total addressable market is really kind of huge, and you found a way to kind of tap into some really important partnerships. So maybe if you want to share a little bit more about those and what you're actually already have built and continuing to be built.
Yeah, exactly. And to add a bit of context to that, I think that, there's definitely a realization, the sort of turn that, the idea of sending net 30 invoices to your, smart car or smart trash can, it sort of sounds ridiculous. And as we move into this new world, we have to realize that the way of paying, the payment, the Master and Visa cards of the world are not adaptable to a truly agnostic and an economy in which the machines are smart, or using smart contracts and things like that. And so there is, definitely an appetite to explore how we, integrate these new payment systems. And, further, one of the things that's really evolved also is the way that we not only how machines are paying and we're billing, but also how we're funding and coordinating infrastructure and networks. And what that's led to is kind of like we have a new RWA product we call Liquid Infrastructure that actually tokenizes the assets and the revenue streams and coordinates them between different entities in a network. And that really provides a unique liquidity to traditionally very locked up assets. And this can be something like spectrum or fiber optic or telecom towers or these sorts of things, or even just the revenue streams in a network. And, there's been a lot of synergy in this approach that we found with different partners. And for example, we just announced a partnership with Globalstar. And Globalstar, even though they are an older satellite company, but they've been around since 1991, they are very innovative and forward thinking about how these stores of value and the new economy was sort of the new machine economy would play out. So we partnered with them on their terrestrial band 53 spectrum, and to allow more people access to these resources, but also some of the funding and coordination layers, which is really exciting that we're, to your point, that large market is really getting opened up to newer players in the ecosystem.
Is this how you came up with the term or iFi in terms of just like the RWA product? That's a really unique take. Everybody has some kind of fi now, and I love the idea of just iFi. So maybe explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think yeah. So iFi is short for infrastructure finance, right? And I think Althea is unique in the blockchain space in that we're our primary customers are B2B, enterprise. We work with EV companies, we work with other ISPs who are building infrastructure that needs a coordinated management layer too, right? So we not only think about, okay, well, deploying the hardware, that's certainly one piece that blockchain has other players in the ecosystem, working to address, Wi-Fi offload, these sorts of things. But, where we look at really kind of both sides of that funding equation and also the management of the network is really, I think, where we come into infrastructure finance. How are we deploying energy? How are we deploying telecom, these utilities that need management, they need insurance, and putting that same funding stream, that same coordination on the same blockchain and being truly hardware agnostic. The Althea protocol is metering and billing, so it applies to really anything that can be metered and billed, and it is purely firmware, so fiber optic, 4G, 5G networks, fixed wireless, and of course, we think in the future also energy will be part of the stack as well.
To kind of take a step back for anybody that's listening, because we have a lot of like hedge funds or family offices. Not everybody's completely caught up to speed on what all things encompassing telecom. So can you kind of share from maybe like a high level perspective, what are some common challenges that maybe some telecoms or institutions face today, and then what specifically Althea L1 is doing to address that and overcome those challenges, so that people can kind of connect more dots here?
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And so traditional telecoms, they do asset purchases back and forth between them, but they're traditionally sort of very, debt heavy and have struggle with the liquidity of their assets that are typically very difficult to move. There's not a very large market of people that can participate in buying fiber optic assets. We're certainly seeing some private equity move into that, but when private equity is purchasing, telecom, they're particularly buying equity. You're getting paid out after a year. It's has some of the same traditional challenges that you would be buying, any kind of business. But when Althea's machine-to-machine payments and sort of tokenization, we are decoupling the operation and management, which can be a separate company, from the assets themselves and their revenue. Their revenue, of course, is streaming back top line. So you have none of that kind of like, procurement risk of, and then also the time delay. So you're getting paid on, potentially a minute by minute basis, as opposed to, on a payout over a year. You're also getting top line revenue instead of the underlying cost. And so it allows for one, flexibility to operators who are looking to deploy infrastructure or have existing infrastructure they're looking for liquidity to, and then two, on the funding side or and coordination side, there's a lot more flexibility and less risk to participating in this in what is somewhat of a relatively new market. Kind of almost think about it like the new real estate in terms of what that TAM might look like, which is pretty exciting. I think the other kind of piece to that too is that traditionally broadband anyway has been built in this sort of rental capacity, right? You get the guy comes out and 24 to 48 hours puts stuff on your roof or whatever. That's really brittle. And what we're really seeing from, I think, Americans in general too, is that they're really looking for more of a commodity based, fixed wireless access was 92% of all new connections in 2022. Starlink's been wildly successful because you get a box, you put it on the roof. So where we're really looking for is paying in a more flexible way. So what Althea allows for is prepayment. People go, they put $50, $25 on their account. It's pay as you go. And you're able to address a much larger percent of the market. These younger people that want flexibility of payment, apartments, lower income people that may not be able to pay every month. And that's roughly about 25% of the US population. So we're really going, okay, look, this payment stack just off the top in terms of broadband users raises your TAM by 25%, which is very compelling. And then we say, it also then you're looking at the flexibility of, kind of a transformative eSIM platform where you then can also get your automated combine, your Waymos, your automated cars, your smart city infrastructure. This can be one single pane of glass network, and the machines programmatically pay each other, and then you can fund in these flexible ways too. So you really create this platform from the machine economy. And that's what's so exciting is we take essentially a Stripe for machines, a MasterCard for machines, and create a truly programmatic payment layer that can be global as well.
That's absolutely fascinating. I'm curious how from like the very bottom of the stack, like the actual person you were talking about, that's the 25%. When they get this commoditized device, like let's say it's like a Starlink type device that now they own and they're not renting, how do you foresee maybe in the future the average person will be able to do these top ups and to actually fund the machine per se, if I'm understanding the flow correctly? Is it directly with like the Althea token, or is it going to be like a stable coin, or how do you see like all of this evolving in the next couple of years to make it easier for the end user outside of extrapolating away from these companies that will initially use the space technology to pay each other back and forth?
Well, so Althea has been out with regular consumer. Thousands of people use Althea across 13 U.S. states, 4 different countries. And they use it without having to realize that they're using a blockchain at all. So they go to their platform and use a debit card or a prepaid debit card to load up. Stripe's one of our integrators. And so it really just feels like filling out your debit card, like what we would anyway. And then it loads up your balance with like $50, let's say. And then you pay as you go. And as soon as your balance gets low, you get a nice little text message that reminds you to go to your payment platform and load that up. And then I would assume in the future, what you get is maybe some ubiquitous account management across your car's wallet and your mobile and your home. And that's kind of where the future is. But currently, right now, businesses, we have wildlife refuges, and thousands of consumers that use this product every day and enjoy that prepayment without and all this sort of the blockchain is kind of abstracted under the hood.
That's always the killer use case in crypto, right? Like if you've abstracted away all the difficult stuff, everybody's very happy. One of the key phrases, though, that you talked about just a moment ago was the machine economy. So again, kind of piggybacking a little bit on what Jordan was saying, being future-minded, look at the rise of AI agents on blockchains right now. And we are just at the beginning of this, right? So this must be incredibly exciting for knowing there's a future in which these autonomous agents may be able to use Althea to get access to broadband or any of these other services to kind of make these connections and stuff. Is that part of the game plan long term, is just because this is being purpose built for a machine economy?
Well, in the future, all contracts will be smart, right? That's the world we're looking to see. Yes. And I think there's one key component where, yes, it definitely feels like we have that traction, but we're not only talking about a payment layer, there's a communication layer as well. So that I think when we think about AI agents, they're always assume they're in the cloud or they're somehow going to find a way to talk to each other. But what I think is really kind of interesting about Althea's stack is, we have a dynamic routing protocol that's has, the ability for these kind of different descriptors. And we're actually the world's first price-aware routing protocol. And that's just basically a fancy way of saying that, users or maybe an AI agent can choose their choice of cost or latency or performance for a specific type of packet. And then it routes through an internet network and then programmatically pays multi-hop each sort of participant in that flow. But what's exciting about that is that you could add, sort of any kind of number of weights to that platform, and you have that sort of dynamic communication protocol. Whether you're, wanted to absorb a higher latent network, let's say in a vehicle-to-vehicle communication, or you want extremely low latency with an economy of machines in a factory. And then you can sort of weight those payments. So I think, one of the things that Althea has done really, or the platform I think is really prepared well for this new economy, is not only thinking about how they pay each other, but also how they communicate. And so I think you really truly create a toolkit, for not only the humans that want to optimize for certain things, but you really can basically put those optimizations that you want into your AI sets, so your smart, and then the protocols can then adapt and program appropriately.
This is quite a unique protocol that you've built, right? Like, I don't think there's anything else out there like Althea. This is really kind of interesting. And just the fact that you guys have continued to iterate across a number of years and thinking about these future trends and sort of the ways, like even what you were just saying about how you could actually choose sort of the latency for depending on the thing that you're trying to achieve is like, I didn't even think that was possible. I had no, because I just think of like, I'm a, internet runs at this speed that you get to your house, right? Like, it's just, I've never really thought about the fact that you could have this sort of programmability to these kinds of options when you're doing these things on chain. So it's really fascinating thinking about just the future that we're all hurtling toward and into, especially as AI comes online and everything else, and this machine economy continues to develop. So thank you so much for taking the time to give us such a great overview, Deborah. Like, how do people get in touch with you? Like, what is the best way? How can they reach out? Anybody who's watching the episode, there's certain platforms that you look for, or maybe websites that people can connect to. And of course, we'll link those as well.
Yeah, appreciate that. It's been a great conversation. So althea.net is a great place to get started to learn about the protocol itself. Of course, then you can follow us on Twitter and Discord from there. The C Corporation that is involved with, supporting integrations and development is called Hawk Networks, like the bird. And you can find us at hawknetworks.net and, share an email with us. We'd be happy to kind of help send materials, or if you want to get started on any kind of project where that team is fully able to not only build telecom networks, but also do bespoke development too.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for taking the time with us, Deborah. For those of you who are watching or listening, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Decentralized. We'll see you on the next episode next time. Take care, everybody.